Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a special look at Faction Battlegrounds. This game is designed by Jason Creighton and Peter Ferry. It's a 2 to 4 player game that takes about 25 minutes to play. And you're going to be combating in this game with different factions, and you're going to try to get to be the first to 25 points. First to 25 points wins the game. So let's go ahead down to the table here, and I'll give you a general overview of how to play the game, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, so this is the Faction Battlegrounds board. Basically what you're going to do at the beginning of the game is decide who goes first, and the person who goes first gets to place more tiles down than the other person. You're going to place these tiles down in turn order. So you place one, your opponent places one, and so on and so forth. But the person that's first player is going to get 5 of their own territory tiles down, and the second player is only going to get 4. But the second player gets to pick the resource advantage tiles on the board here, and there's rules for placement on these, which I won't go over, but in essence, they're going to be a certain distance apart and in this middle band. Now, the other thing you're going to do is each player is going to get 10 mana and 10 gold. They're going to select a faction, and there's a lot of factions in Faction Battlegrounds. So there's a lot of different ones to pick from, and they all have their own little 15 tile asymmetric deck that you can use in the game. And I have these two guys out here. What you're going to do is you have 10 gold to start with, so you can pick your starting units. You don't have to spend all your gold, but you have to have some starting units. But before you even do that, you're going to go through this deck and remove 3. So everyone's going to have 12 cards or 12 characters they can use. Then they're going to take a look at this gold number here, and they're going to select up to 10 gold worth of characters to put out. So just for moving this along, I'm going to say that I selected these 2. Now remember, you'd also have had to remove 3 monsters from your deck before you started. The opponent selected these 2, which is 9, so they'll have 1 gold left over, and reduce your gold accordingly. So I have 0, and the opponent has 1. All right, so what you're going to do throughout the game is you're going to activate these units in command order. So your command order is going to be right here. So the highest number here wins. And so here's a 4. This would go first. And then you would just go straight down. During your turn, you can purchase more troops and put them out. You can move your units. Your unit movement is here. If your unit is a leader, your leader can move a unit of lower command value and do attacks and fun stuff. So that's a really nice trick that leaders can do. You can attack if you're adjacent. So if you're adjacent to another monster here, this is the damage you can do if there's a sword here. There's also ones with arrows. That's going to be your ranged attack. Let me see. I don't know if this faction has them. This one should. All right, so this one can perform a ranged attack. This is the distance it can do too. This is the health of the units have. So once the health is reduced, this unit is removed. Units that are removed, you're going to get points equal to the cost that are put out. So in this case, you get 7 points, the opponent would, for knocking this out. Once someone gets to 25 points, they win the game. A couple other things to note. We did more of an overview with our preview video on this. I'm just going over a quick sort of idea of the game, but there's going to also be abilities that the cards get. Some of them can fly. Flying units you have a marker that you put on them. Flying units can only be attacked by can only attack other aerial units, except for some ranged units on the ground can try to roll to do damage to the aerial unit. So there's a chance they're going to miss the aerial unit in the air. But it does allow them to maybe attempt to attack. Other things you can do is you can activate a special abilities here. See, this has a mana cost. So you will do 7 mana cost to cast a spell, this is the distance, and this is how much damage it does. And this one will actually do all in range. So some of them are super powerful. So you have to keep that in mind when people are bringing out these units. Some of the units can be super huge, like this guy. He is gigantic with 9 health. But if your opponent takes them out, they get 10 points, which is over a third of their way to winning the game. There is a lot of different, these factions are very, very asymmetric, and they have all sorts of different abilities and all sorts of different strategies you can employ. So there's a lot to choose from here. Couple other things that are consideration when you put these units out is some of them actually generate resources like this. So if this character is in the territory, one of the territories that you own, you will generate that resource at the end of the round, so you get more. You can also control these centers over here, and when you can control a center, that's permanent production of either mana or gold, whatever you controlled. So that's also very, very important, and these are in the center. Other things of importance too is water slows down your units, because if you hit the water, you pause there. So when you're setting up the game, you're probably going to place these waters here as like a barrier for units to slow them down to get into your territory. And also, I would say don't forget that during your turn you can plop out new units, and if you plop out a new unit with higher rank, that unit will actually get to fire off. So that's pretty cool, or lower rank depending on what you want to do. There's a lot in here. I also really like these faction overlay sheets here. So these faction sheets will show you basically how this faction plays, gives you a general idea how you should want to run them, and it's a really good like cheat sheet on how to play your faction. And each of them have them, and there's a ton of different, like, you get your own territory tiles per faction, and they are pretty different and unique, and I really like that. So in a very short nutshell, that is how you play faction Battlegrounds. Let's go ahead back up to the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, so I really, really like this game. If you like games like Summoner Wars, which I love, you're going to probably love this game. This game actually has a lot less luck in this game than Summoner Wars. Summoner Wars, you're rolling dice constantly to deal damage to opponents' units and stuff in here. This, the only time you ever really roll dice at all is going to be when you're going to try to hit aerial units with your ranged units. That is the only dice rolling in the game. Other than that, it's complete strategy in the game. You're going to be trying to maneuver and position your units in there. And another big advantage of this game is you know what units the opponent has. You have that card that shows all the units in it. Where Summoner Wars can get into a little thing like you're not entirely sure what your opponent can do. This you do. So it's open information. Really like that. It's all in the strategy of how you position your units and how you get ready to basically take advantage of mistakes that the opponent may or may not be making and how they position their units. I really like that. I really like the depth of strategy that comes into this game. I also really appreciate that you're not just having to eliminate all the units. You're not having that little slog where you have to just keep on going and they have this one little unit dancing around the board that you can't kill. I really like that that's not in this game. You're just trying to get to 25 points. First person to 25 points wins. So you may go a couple different strategies just in that. So you'll take your strategy and you might actually be like, oh, you know what? I'm making a mistake over here. So they bring their huge units in and you pick those off because those are worth a lot of points because they have a big cost to them. So there's a ton of strategy in this game. There's a ton of replayability in this game because there's a ton of factions. And like I said, the factions are all asymmetric. They all are very unique, and the art is amazing for this game. So, like I said, if you like games like Summoner Wars, you like two-player combat games like Battlelore, you're going to probably love this game. Now, I said two-player games. I really, really like this game at two-player. The 3 and the 4 is fine, but two-player, I think this game really, really shines. So I would recommend this game as a two-player game. You can play it as 3 or 4. And with that, those are the type of games and the genre of games that if you like those, you're going to like this one. So that's my thoughts on Faction Battlegrounds. Thank you for watching.